atheists must be included in Canada's Special Humanitarian Assistance Program for Afghan Nationals. So, this is a press release that Atheist Republic just put out a few days ago. Atheist Republic is the first secular organization in Canada to call upon the government to clarify and correct a grave error in the recently constructed Special Humanitarian Assistance Program for Afghan Nationals. Canada is one of the few countries offering resettlement for vulnerable and at-risk Afghans who did not specifically work for any occupying foreign government, with up to 20,000 spots available. Afghans eligible for this program must fit within at least one of the following categories: women leaders, human rights advocates, LGBTI individuals, journalists and people who assisted Canadian journalists, extended family members of the previously resettled interpreters who assisted the government of Canada, immediate family members of one of the above, and persecuted religious minorities. The language of this policy, which designates the only belief-based persecuted group eligible for this program as religious, explicitly discriminates against atheists, a group at high risk of deadly persecution by the Taliban. This highly restrictive wording is not aligned with Canada's United Nations human rights responsibilities to protect freedom of religion or belief, and must be corrected immediately.
This is such a good thing that is out there, and you led this, so thank you so much for this. You and I don't know if I can say his name, so I'm not going to.
No, we can. Yeah, I want to give huge credit to one of our directors, Robert. He was incredibly helpful with this. I wouldn't have been able to execute a lot of this without him because I'm chronically overworked, and he's super amazing at helping push me to do stuff like this.
It's so amazing that, you know, atheists are one of the most discriminated against and endangered minority groups out there, and they're often thought about the least and last as an afterthought. I mean, ex-Muslims in Afghanistan, like, if you're trying to protect people, how could you miss that? Like, you're listing everybody that it could be. You know, atheists just don't matter. Like, when it comes to oppression and discrimination, they don't even, they're not even noticed as a category of people that they need protection. Even though, I mean, it's within their laws. It's within the laws of Afghanistan even before Taliban for ex-Muslims to be executed. Right?
Yes.
Guys,
yes.
Think how bad the situation is.
Article 130.
We're talking about the fact that ex-Muslims in Afghanistan were punishable, their existence is punishable by death, even under the government that was endorsed by the United States. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong about this, right? And now we have the Taliban, right? So we're talking about women's situation getting worse, LGBT situation getting worse. But we're not talking about ex-Muslims who already had it really bad, like people that were even in fear before. Like, you're only highlighting the people that were not, the situation wasn't as bad for them before, and now the situation is bad. Think about how horrible, what is the situation of ex-Muslim? Like, everywhere, like, there's not, guys. Let me actually clarify this, okay? Because I don't want to participate in the oppression Olympics, because I happen to be an atheist and I happen to be an ex-Muslim, right? And this might seem like we saying like, oh, look at me, look at us, poor us, okay? So I'm not trying to portray myself as a victim. I'm fine. I have actually never experienced any form of discrimination for being an atheist or for being an ex-Muslim, okay? I mean, just maybe when I was in Iran, but that was just a little bit. I left. I'm fine. I'm completely fine. This is not me crying victimhood. Okay, I'm talking about other people. Okay, atheists are one of the most oppressed group of people in the world. Okay, and relative to how much discrimination they're facing, the level of attention and the level of protection and the level of institutions and organizations and advocates that exist out there for them is relatively non-existent. compared to all the other groups, right? Compared to the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, the Hindus, the LGBT, women rights. These are the people that need the most, everybody. Like, again, I'm not saying LGBT people and trans, and women's and Muslims and Hindus and Christians and Jews, they should, the groups that they have that bring attention to their oppression, I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. There should be more of those even. Like, it's like, I'm not saying that should be reduced. I'm just saying relative to that, atheists receive almost no attention, even though they are, like, how many other minority groups can you refer to and say that in 13 countries their existence is punishable by death? Not any action, just their mere existence, okay, is punishable by death. Okay, I mean, the closest thing could be like gay activity, not being gay, is punishable by death in 10 countries, right? I think it was 10, all Islamic, obviously. But that's the closest thing. But, even if you don't want to accept the claim that atheists are the most discriminated group around the world, they're at least one of the most discriminated. Like, they're pretty high up there. Okay, it could be the most, it could be pretty high up there, but they do need more protection. And we have a country. Canada is one of the leading countries when it comes to taking human rights seriously. And you can see that even in a language of a country that is so careful, that is so tries to dot the I's and cross the T's, and has experts, human rights experts, and is like pays millions of dollars into making sure that they're on the right side of human rights. Atheists are just like, they're not even thought of. They're not like, who atheists, what, right? We're talking about atheist ex-Muslims in Afghanistan. How could that not be a priority? How could that not even a priority? How could that not even make it on your list of all the people that you're mentioning that need protection? It's unbelievable. But go.
Well, this is what I find frustrating. So I have been talking to a lot of people from other secular Canadian organizations over the past month, and learning about their insight and experience and their frustrations that they have with bringing this issue to the Canadian government, because the Canadian government, isn't the first time they've made this major and grave oversight. In Canada, there's something called less complex claims for refugee asylum seeker cases. And it's basically a way to kind of fast track certain refugee and asylum seekers through the process. However, the group that is not eligible for this program is atheists, because the language is explicitly religious. Right, again, religious persecuted groups.
Is there any way
this is another big oversight? Shoot, what was I going to say? There was actually a huge chunk about the background of the problem that I took out of this press release, because I wanted this to be more quick and newsworthy. So I can read that if people are interested. But I also wanted to talk about some of the other things that we call upon the Canadian government to do in this press release.
Before you do that, two things. First of all, how could people get this statement and bring it to more people that need to see it?
Well, link is in the description, very last news in this description. If you go to atheistrepublic.com and you see the tab, it says news, you click on that, you click press releases, you will find it.
Okay. And also, last point, before you go into other points that was made in the statement, read what Dee is saying.
Dee is saying, this is why it's so important for us to embrace the label, to stop being overlooked. It's very true. Oh,
if you are an atheist and if it's safe for you, please call yourself an atheist. It helps. It really does help. Embrace the label. Anyways, go on.
Well, one thing I find particularly frustrating is that people I've talked to who have experience going to the government about these kind of issues and oversights, they say that some pushback they get from members of the government is that, well, anyone can claim to be an atheist. This is a major concern in terms of bringing people into the country. And that is BS to me. Anyone can claim to be a Christian. Anyone can claim to be a Shia. Anyone can claim to be LGBT. So why are you privileging these groups? Okay, they're not recognizing the real and systemic oppression that atheists face around the world. It's no small matter for someone to identify as an atheist. Even if it is false, that's not a small matter for someone that comes from these communities. And if I entrust the Canadian government to do the background work to ensure that that is true. But just saying on its face that we can't have these kinds of provisions because anyone can claim to be an atheist is total bullshit, because anyone can claim to be part of any given group identity.
Right. I just want to, because Susanna, because some people might be idiots and they might not understand what you're saying. Susanna is not saying that just because anybody could say that they're LGBT, or anybody that could say that they're Shia in a Sunni majority country, or anybody that could say they're Christian in a Muslim country, that you should not, that she's not advocating, obviously she's not, but some people are dumb. She's not advocating that we shouldn't take somebody saying that they're Shia and they're being oppressed as a Shia in a Sunni majority country. She's not saying that we shouldn't take that seriously and investigate it and accept these people. She's saying that given that we accept that challenge, given that human rights group know that some people could be pretending, but they still don't want to ignore LGBT people or other minority groups that could be lying, but a lot of them, most of them, I mean, I don't know, a lot of them aren't. So you investigate, like you try to come up with that challenge. Like how do we recognize who actually needs help and who doesn't, right? So if we are building the structure and the processes that is there to be able to find who's in need, who's actually LGBT and is being oppressed, who's actually Shia and being oppressed by Sunnis, or who's actually Sunni and is being oppressed by Shias, or who's actually Christian. If all of that exists for other people, then we should be able to create the same processes for atheists, for people who are claiming to be oppressed because they're atheists or ex-Muslim. Okay,
exactly.
Go ahead.
It's a total BS excuse to preclude atheists because you think it's easier to make that claim as opposed to any other group. It's no different. Actually, it's well known that many people claim to be a Christian because they know that there's much support waiting for them from organizations and charitable places than as a specific means to get into countries. This is well known.
Actually,
I don't see extra skepticism there.
I mean, there should be skepticism, but
yes, I'm not arguing otherwise.
But it shouldn't stop us to actually help people who need it, right?
Yeah.
I know you're not saying it, but again, people are dumb. Actually, something very interesting that you pointed, a lot of ex-Muslims who are atheists pretend that they're ex-Muslims who are Christian. Think about this. There's such a lack of support for ex-Muslims who are atheists that for ex-Muslims to be able to get the support that they need when they're fleeing Islamic countries, even though they have left religion and they don't believe in Christianity, they know that there are not atheist institutions and organizations and communities there for them, or any human rights groups that will support them. To be able to get the support that they need, they have to pretend that they left Islam and converted to Christianity, because there are Christian communities, there are churches, there are fundraisers, there are lawyers, there's child support, there's food, there's shelter. Think about what that means, guys. This is one thing we wanted Atheist Republic to be, but we will never get there because people don't donate to us that much and we will never have the resources, right? We wanted to be the organization that is there for these kind of atheists, that all these giant resources that exist for Christians who are fleeing Islamic countries. We wanted Atheist Republic to fill that gap for atheists, but we will never be able. These Christian institutions are rich. They have lawyers. They have food banks. They have so much money.
Decades or hundreds of years as an institution.
We will never be able to provide a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that. So, anyways. But yeah, go on. You wanted to highlight more of the statement?
Well, there's other things that we call on Canada to also ensure. So the primary one is to make sure to include non-religious Afghans, humanists, and agnostics. This language in the policy needs to be clarified and corrected. We also call upon the government of Canada to publicly commit to maintaining its special immigration program and special humanitarian program for Afghan nationals for a minimum of a 5-year period, to increase funding to Canadian service provider organizations working with Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, which are dedicated to providing logistical and social support for Afghan families resettling in Canada, and to report publicly on Canada's status against its August 2021 commitment to resettle 20,000 Afghan nationals at risk of persecution. Because it's important that the government is actually accountable for these programs, that they report how things are going openly. And we also wanted to talk about a commitment of a 5-year period, because this crisis in Afghanistan, I kind of don't like when people are saying like that as if this is a new thing. This isn't a new thing. It's just accelerated, right? But it's not going away. It's not going away, and there will be continue to be people for years and decades to come who need to leave, right? So governments shouldn't act like we just evacuated people once and we're good to go. No, there's going to be ramifications for many, many years to come. There was something I wrote that I kind of wanted to read because I couldn't include it in the press release. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. So this is background and emphasizing exactly why this is an issue for atheists in Afghanistan, because a lot of people don't actually understand. Most people don't know that apostasy is punishable by death. So this is, I didn't include this because it's too researchy, because that's how my mind is. But apostasy is punishable by death under Article 130 of the Afghan Constitution, one of 13 countries that maintain the death penalty for apostasy. Afghanistan is also one of 8 countries worldwide that punish blasphemy with the death penalty. Allegations of blasphemy are frequently used against atheists to incite deadly extrajudicial mob violence against them. Oftentimes, the mere act of leaving Islam itself may be viewed as an insult to Islam and therefore be characterized as blasphemous. According to the most recent data from Pew Research Center, 79% of Afghans support the death penalty for leaving Islam. While the status of the Afghan penal code is in question due to the takeover, it is reasonable to assume that the Taliban's treatment of atheists will be as severe as that of the previous government, if not more so. The Taliban are known for their fidelity to Sharia, or Islamic law, specifically the Deobandi vein of the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. The classical understanding of the Hanafi prescription for punishment for apostasy is execution for men, with the non-essential option of providing 3 days for repentance preceding the execution, while for women, the punishment is solitary confinement with beatings every 3 days until she returns to Islam. Punishing apostasy with death is validated and promoted in authentic Islamic scripture, such as the Quran and the Hadith, sayings and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, of which the Taliban are well known for their literalist interpretations of these texts. So I wanted to include that because a lot of people don't actually have an understanding of the background of where this is coming from, and they may be quick to dismiss it. What's interesting about the article, the Afghan Constitution, which is how the death penalty for apostasy is valid, is because this is a specific article of the Constitution that says basically any part of the law that we haven't particularly written out within our own constitution or penal code, we are basically going to defer to the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. Well, what is the Hanafi ruling on apostasy? It's execution. So just to clarify that, because some people might look at it and be like, Susanna, that's not the like ruling or letter of the law, but that's how it pans out.
Right. So when you say you didn't include it because it's too researchy, what you mean is that it was just like a list of research facts that if you included, it would make it less likely for somebody to actually read the statement. Is that what you meant?
Yes. A press release has to be very poignant, notey, boom, 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 hit your points, and also newsworthy, right? Because
I just wanted to clarify that, because for people who might not know you, they might have come to the impression that you're saying is too researchy, as if like you wouldn't want to do the research, but you have already done the research. And if
Yeah, I
anything,
wrote that.
Susanna loves doing research. She loves nerding it. But no, that was actually. I'm impressed that you actually did all the work, and that was a very well written, and then you decided to not put it in there. So that's. But yeah, but I mean,
that's actually why I wanted to read it now.
because you did the work and you did it in
Yeah.
3 minutes, so you wanted us to listen. Aww. No, that was very well written. That was very good.
Thank you.
And the good thing about your writing is that you don't exaggerate. You consider people's objections. You consider the nuances. You put in the other side. Like I know, like a lot of people from our community, they're just like, well, if Afghanistan, well, they're Muslim, so obviously it's going to, anybody who does this is going to be choppy and their heads off. Like it's not like that. Like it's not that simple. Like it's complicated. Like you go actually look at the information. Well, it's not in the law books, but they're appealing to the Hanafi school of thought, and this is like, like you address the fact that it's not written. Like so you don't make it, like you don't simplify things. And I think like more people should appreciate the work that you put into all of this, right? You make a lot of you make a lot of information a lot easier for the rest of us to consume. So thank you for doing that.
There were some people asking how they can help with this Afghan situation and what the issue that we wrote this press release about. It's a little bit difficult because Canada is in elections right now. But once the elections are over, if you're Canadian, consider writing to your MP about this and bringing it to their attention. Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.